All right, we have another Patreon request here. So, if you want one of these, you can always go over to Patreon and request a film. I always appreciate it. My daughter's helmet just sitting here in my lap for some freaking reason. I'm not honestly sure why. It was okay. I know why. It was sitting in my seat when I sat down, and I'm just gonna wear it for the rest of the review. So there we go. Because I think I look about as silly right now as this fucking movie is. Oh, and Caleb, look at this. I'm wearing your shirt, man. Pretty good shit. Pretty cool shit. So yeah, Evil Ed. I can't take myself seriously with this goddamn thing. Oh, anyway. Alright, so now this is a very, very memorable poster to me when I was a kid in the old video stores. I'll put the image as the thumbnail for the video here, but yeah, that split head right down the middle, which doesn't happen in the movie, of course. That's always that thing with the VHS covers. The VHS covers almost never actually paid off, and even if they did, it was still a very different version of events. Like the Happy Birthday to Me one, which, I mean, I guess it just really depends on your viewpoint on that one with the shish kebab going into the guy's mouth. It just looks like he's really hungry and he's like, I'm just gonna eat one of those things. But what's weird is that in the movie, that's a character from the movie, but that's not who gets the shish kebab kill. So it's really fucking weird. There's lots of stuff like that. Lots of posters like that. But anyways, I just remember this poster. Speaking of posters, this movie has tons of them in the film. Prince of Darkness, Dr. Giggles, Evil Dead 2. The list goes on and on. I saw probably 15, 20 of them in this movie. So whoever made this movie is definitely a hardcore horror fan. Now this came out in 1995. That's pretty interesting to me because at that time horror was really on a huge decline. And this is like a parody horror comedy. Honestly, having never seen this and always wanting to have seen it, how do I say this? I was really enjoying maybe the first like 30 minutes or so. And I think the guy who plays Ed in this gives a good performance. Very wacky. But it just kind of wears itself thin after a while for me. I don't know why. It was just kind of just like, all right, like I get the shtick. I wasn't really, it just felt like the same thing over and over. Like his performance just wore thin because he was just freaking out, and then he would kill people, and then he would freak out, and then he'd try to kill people, and it just was like, like these characters aren't really working for me. Now, the first few characters did work for me, and I was all about it. I'm actually gonna have to pause this and come back, which I never do, but my brother is calling me to play video games right now, so I'm gonna cut it here and I'll see you guys in about 2 hours. Sorry, I thought I was gonna have more time. And I'm back. So we're coming off a win, so I'm on high right now. We want a last second thing. I know you guys give a big shit, right? Okay. Anyway, so we got this hilarious opening. I did love this opening. This guy who I'm assuming went mad from the last bit of footage, that was given to him. The same thing happened to some other dude, just like Ed. He was shown this footage and it drove him to madness. And they come in and he freaking takes a grenade and he pulls the pin out of it. And the guy's like, drop that. Which of course is not the greatest thing to say in those types of scenarios, but tells him it, and then the guy just sticks it in his mouth, and the producer dude just stands there and watches, not worried that the shrapnel and everything will come back and hit him when he's like fucking 5 feet away. But whatever, it doesn't matter. He just stands there because this movie's not even attempting any bit of realism to it, of course. He just stands there and the guy's head freaking blows up. We don't get to see that, unfortunately, and the blood just sprays all over the dude, and he's like, "You're fired." Very funny opening, I had to say. It was a parody. I was like, oh wow, this could turn into You know what it kind of felt like? It kind of felt almost like a Blood Diner at first. I was like, oh, this is just going to be super wacky, completely throw logic out the door, over the top, eccentric characters. And I was really excited. And the first 30 minutes really had me like, this is fun. This is a fun time. I'm really enjoying this. Holy shit, I think Devon had gotten me something here. Which I don't. Man, it's been like 2 hours since I started this video. Did I even mention who this Patreon request was for? Don't think I did. Devon Graham? Anybody who can get that reference, because that's obviously not his real name. Well, not obviously if you don't know what the reference is, but when I saw that for originally, I was like, is that? I don't even think I said is that. I was like, oh, nice reference. Your name there. Yeah, good name. Good name. Kudos to the name. Anyway, so yeah, this movie has similarities to the movie The Editor from the Astron 6 guys, just because it's, a guy who's editing together film and is questioning shit around him and whatnot. I do prefer The Editor, though. I didn't dislike this movie by any means. I found it to be a little repetitive, and the characters wore thin for me. There just wasn't enough going on for me. But I did like the meta style. It also it reminds me of a few different films, I suppose. But the whole like him editing another film, another slasher series of films. He's working on part 8. And they're wanting to cut it down for the MPAA so that it's not an X rating, it has to get an R rating. And so the footage that he has to go through is maddening. Now, a question I have though is, isn't he editing the stuff at his house? I mean, they come to his house and that's like where the editing shit is, right? Am I missing this? Because in his house, he has a poster up for Dr. Giggles. But he's like, oh my god, this is such trash cinema, and this is all just about kills, and it's like, you have a Dr. Giggles poster in your room. You also have a Cape Fear one as well. Not that that one's super hardcore or anything, but, I mean, it's a fairly violent movie, and it's almost like a slasher flick, so I just found it funny when I was looking. I was like, is that a Dr. Giggles poster in your house? The dubbing in this movie, I have to wonder if it was done intentionally to add to the silliness of the movie, because I just don't feel like with the production value of the film that the dubbing had to be done. It felt like an aesthetic choice to make the film more exaggerative and silly. And that's just my guess, because I can't come up with anything else unless they just had some seriously choppy ass dial or audio, and they just like, we have to record over it all. I highly doubt that. So. And I like that I think it's the producers watching a movie in the background, and the guy who's killing the people in the movie has this like super shitty, cheap knockoff Michael Myers mask. It's like the ones that you used to buy from the drugstores when you were kids. The old one that was called The Mask. It's just the white one. If you've ever seen a picture of it, it's just like the eyes are all bulgy, and it's such a terrible, dreadful mask. But that's what they were wearing in this, and I thought that was pretty funny. The footage is also not only corrupting his mind because he's starting to see gore in place of everything around him and other monsters, which I'm not really understanding of the monster stuff, because is it that the footage contained evil and he was susceptible to that because he was not desensitized by it? And thought it crude, but like forced himself to sit through this almost demonic footage, and so he became like possessed in a sense, or at least his eyeballs did, so he saw everything in a certain way. But why was he seeing monsters? Because the movie he was editing and the movies that he was watching they were just slasher films. Now the slasher film they were pretty funny. The killers are very, very goofy and ridiculous, and they actually acted when I was laughing because they were acting like CKY characters. You know, Bam Margera and Ryan Dunn and all of them. They like freaking. Oh God, what was that guy's name? Shit, it's been so long since I've watched one of those. Rake. Oh shit, what was his name? Dude hates mustard. Why can't I think of his? But one of the fucking villains in this was acting like that. One of the killers. He was just like, "Wah, wah." It was so funny. I was like, is that the dude from CKY? Obviously it wasn't, but he was acting like it. A couple of them were acting like. I mean, shit. I thought Rab himself was gonna come out and start talking about Salisbury stews. Fucking hell. I quote Haggard so often. There's so many hilarious lines in that movie that I just can't get over. Anytime, yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna go off on some fucking tangent. Don't do it, Jason. Stay on track. So he's looking at, but what I was trying to get to is that the footage is corrupting his mind. So he's seeing gore in place of normal activities. He's seeing monsters in place of normal people, which doesn't really make any sense because he never sees any monsters in the movies that he's making. And also nudity is also being injected into his life. So he's seeing gorgeous women taking off their tops. Like he looks over at his granny neighbor who's like in her 80s, and then she turns into some Playboy freaking swimsuit model or something and starts showing her titties to him and such. And he's like staring at her. Oh my God. And he's all smiling. And then it, turns back into the old woman. She's like, whoa, what are you looking at? She should be... Never mind. I was going to say, she'd probably be stoked that some dude was looking at her who was that young. And she'd be like, what? Oh, do I look good today? Or she wouldn't. Depends on the woman, obviously. Wickenburg, biatch. So there's some gremlin in his fridge. That thing was pretty wacky, and we didn't really get much of him. I would have liked to have seen more. I would have liked to see more of that. I think that would have been more entertaining for me, instead of him just, dealing with these people and like the SWAT team, which I'm still not sure why they even showed up. I guess because he broke out and they just brought him in, but it was so fast and it was so abrupt. I was like, oh, okay, I guess there's a SWAT team here now. But that gremlin in the fridge, and then that legend-looking Tim Curry freaking devil with the huge horns, and I would have liked to see more of that. And then that chick turns into that demon with a freaking almost like a Demon Knight-esque face, or it almost looked like the creature that the dude turns into with the hooker segment in Creepshow 3, but it looked like that same kind of face. So I really liked all that stuff. I loved the practicals. I loved the monsters. I loved all that stuff. There was just so little of them. I would have loved to have seen more of them. So it's kind of like it was cool, but at the same time it was lacking at this. So it was, it was kind of a bittersweet in a sense. Guy takes a shotgun out of the freaking trunk and says groovy. I don't need to explain, especially with an Evil Dead 2 poster in this movie. Now, I don't think I've seen a movie since Star Wars that has people who can't aim as bad as this movie. It's fucking insane, man. A guy fires a double-barreled shotgun when Ed is like 2 feet in front of him. This is like reminding me of the UHF scene with the Rambo, parody where he's standing right in front of him, shooting directly into his body, and he's missing every single shot. This guy's right in front of him, boom, fires again, and it just grazes his face. How do you miss at that range? Then another guy comes around the corner with an Uzi, misses every shot. And then the cops come in, trained SWAT officers come in, and not one of them can hit him. But he can hit everybody. He picks up a gun, boom, boom, boom. He's just blowing everyone away. It's just like, I don't know for sure, but to me it looks like Ed's probably never picked up a gun in his life. And I mean, poor Ed, because he's just defending himself. Like, he sees everyone as monsters coming after him. And yes, he's a little mad, but I mean, what would you do if you were seeing this kind of shit all around you? You'd go mad too. So we all go a little mad sometimes, right? And so he's shooting these monsters. I was going to give a spoiler to a movie there, so I can't do that. But it's like an ending of a movie. I can't say which, otherwise that would screw up the movie if you haven't seen it. And I already said all that shit. The music in this is terrible. The music, the score is dreadful. Oh my god, it was driving me crazy. And I already said all this shit. I already said all that stuff. And then the last, like the freaking the final dude of the SWAT team, him and Ed have some like cowboy showdown draw for some reason when the guy should have just fired right into Ed. And for some reason, he had to eject a shell from his shotgun to like put one in the chamber. Why wasn't that thing already loaded? Did he fire and I missed it? Like, I didn't see him fire at all. So why is already one shell expended and have to be discharged? And why didn't he cock it as soon as he saw Ed, so that when he just put his gun up, he could have fired? That cost him a lot of time. And of course, Ed hits him like crazy, and this dude can't hit shit. Ridiculous. And then I will tell you this though, the end scene where dude comes in, the goofy guy who loves the horror movies, and of course this movie's message essentially is horror movies corrupt the mind, which of course I think is total horseshit, but nor here nor there. But the ending sequence of this movie, when the guy gets the shotgun and he comes in on Ed, and Ed's he's got something in his hand. I think he's bringing down like a scalpel or something into the girl. But he's bringing that stuff down, and his hand just gets blown off. Then like his freaking arm gets blown off, and then he gets shot a couple more times, and parts are just ripping from his body. And then he blows his head off, and like half of his head comes off, and it's awesome. That is such a fantastic scene. That's like something I would put into a collection of clips of like great gore from horror. So that is a fantastic sequence. And kind of talking about the films within films, I liked that stuff. There was some decent gore there as well. There's some hot babes getting naked and such, so of course I'm going to dig that. And the guy's like chopping into the girl's arms and cutting the girl's freaking leg off. And the films are just mind-numbingly stupid that they're watching. But they're of course supposed to be parodies of something like a Friday the 13th franchise. But yeah, that's about it. So thank you to Devon Graham for his patronage. I had fun. I feel like I'm making it seem like I didn't like it. I did. I just felt like it wore itself thin, and I wish that they would have played a little more into the monsters, the creature effects, all that stuff. The gore was good. The kills were pretty good. I mean, for the most part, everything was on screen, so that was great. You had some really cool character moments, so I really liked that. Maybe a second viewing might serve better, just maybe understanding what the pace is going to be a little more, or how one note at times it was. It is a pretty crazy flick at times, but for some reason it just didn't feel like it ever got itself out of like second or third gear. That's my thoughts on it. But anyways, have you guys seen this movie? You remember the cover back in the video stores? Because I sure as hell do. That was back when you could actually put out covers like that and no one cared. Different times. All right, guys. Adios.